And welcome live to the LV Home Experts Radio Show. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Chakits Krulsawat with Simply Vegas, licensed real estate agent out here in Las Vegas, Nevada, the host of the LV Home Experts podcast. This is where we talk about real estate and financing with my co-host, Dan French with Guarantee Rate. Dan, I've been trying to call you for some time. You haven't been answering your phone. What is going on?
Oh, man, I just been going out and doing my thing, trying to drum up some business and make it happen, dude.
Really? Making it happen?
Making it happen, hitting the pavement, running.
I just feel like you just don't answer my phone anymore. Why are you doing that?
Man,
I don't feel love whatsoever.
I called you back the other day, and then you call me back later. Sometimes you call me the next day.
That's true.
I think it's kind of like a back and forth.
Yeah, it's like phone tag.
And then you called me last night, and I was doing my own thing. So, you know what I mean?
It almost seems like a relationship that's not going in a good direction here. I'm like, answer the phone, man. I want to talk to you. But
we have our moments. Sorry, Danny.
But anyway, we have a very special guest today, Daniel Phee, right? Or how do you pronounce it? I'm sorry.
Daniel Phee.
Oh, Daniel Phee with
like
KW, which is Keller Williams Realty, Las Vegas. How's everything going with you today?
Man, everything's great. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be alive. Helping people buy and sell real estate here in Las Vegas. And
that's pretty deep. I'm happy to be alive.
Yeah, straight up, dude.
Did you almost like lose your life or something?
No. But it's just like it's a blessing every day.
Yeah.
Like everyone thinks the sky is falling, and I think I smell opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually met you at a summit. I think it was, right? Was it a summit?
Yeah. I came up to you and I was like, "So when are you going to be on stage?"
That's a good point. And
Yeah.
you know what? When you said that, as I was sitting there, I realized that I was one of those guys that was watching all these people on stage, and I realized that I need to be one of those guys that are on the stage, not behind the stage or in front of the stage.
Yeah,
which is, that's a good point. I was like, oh man.
It was the first thing that came to mind because it's only a matter of time.
But I mean, what is that? What can I share? Like, what information do I have? I mean, I pretty much only work with buyers and I educate buyers, right? I mean,
no, all right. So quick story, when I was trying to figure out a social media strategy, I was listening to Gary Vee, and he was like on YouTube selling wine. And I was like, oh, I should be on YouTube selling houses. Let me search Las Vegas real estate. And your name was all over the place. So what can you share? You could share a whole lot with real estate agents on how to blow up their real estate business using social media.
That's a good point. However, you are pretty big on Instagram yourself.
Yeah, that's like all I've ever done consistently. Trying to expand out to YouTube.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on the show. But yeah, that's worked for me as far as attracting buyers and sellers over the last 8 years here in Las Vegas.
How many followers you got right now on Instagram?
I think like 11,000.
That's pretty big, man. I've been working at this for probably about a year, over a year now, like really going hard at it. And I'm only at about like 6,400. So if you guys haven't checked me out on Instagram, go to Instagram and follow me on Instagram.
Hold on, I'm going to do that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. You haven't done that yet, Dan?
I got to do that right now. I forgot.
No, I follow you.
Somebody follow me, please. I've been putting all this time, hard work, and effort into it.
Let me get on this again. I got to get it right now.
This is where I'm very impressed with you. You said that you did, 30 transactions from just Instagram last year or something?
Well, so the thing is, over the last 8 years, I've been between 20, 30, 40, just depending on what's going on. This year's probably a little bit less than 30, but, I'm connected with my sphere. Mm-hmm. I'm connected with other agents trying to drop tips on how to improve their business, the things that I've done that have worked. And, through that, I get referrals from agents all over the country. I just got one today from a lender in Washington who knows me on LinkedIn, actually, not Instagram. But that's how it's kind of been the last 8 years, just attraction-based marketing, and deals come in. So my sphere is all connected with me on Instagram, other agents. And, if they want to buy or sell, or they know someone who wants to buy or sell, as long as you show up and provide value, people usually send me business. And
that's good. That's good. And this is, great for all the agents that are out there that, are getting started. If they don't have any money, this is definitely where you're going to get started. However, this show is not about real estate agents. This show is really about, buying, selling homes, and what's going on with the housing market all the way down to financing. But before we get into it, I want my audience to know who they are. I mean, who you are as a person, right? So let's go back from the beginning real quick. How long have you been a real estate agent?
So I got my real estate license in June 2014.
Okay.
I was running a nightclub or an ultra lounge at the Venetian at the time as a general manager. Had a couple kids and couldn't stay out till 5 a.m. throwing parties for corporate people anymore.
Okay.
And so I got my license, and I did it part-time for a year and a half, and my goal was to match my salary, which I was making at the Venetian. And if I was able to do that, I would walk away.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that much time to cold call and do all that, so I got on social media because that's what I was doing to sell bottles at the club.
Yeah.
And literally, a year and a half later, I did match my salary, and I was able to walk away. So I did it part-time for a year and a half, and then I've been full-time ever since.
So what made you become a real estate agent? I mean, there had to be something where, hey, I want to become an agent other than the money, right?
So, I bought my first house when I was 23. And
That's pretty impressive, dude.
Yeah, well, it was in Rhodes Ranch, thank you. And I thought it was, but that's when they were kind of giving loans out.
Oh, okay.
What are you talking about? The down payment assistance?
I'm not pointing at you.
That's funny. He literally looked at Dan as he was talking about it.
Like, give out
Dan's
down payment assistance. Who needs money?
Yeah.
Well, no, we put money down. We had money, but before all that, I had a billboard company for 2 years, mobile billboard company, and I would run ads on the strip. And we were able to qualify for a property. 2 years later, actually, it was October 2007, literally 15 years to the month, we purchased this home. And a year later, 2 years later, it was like half as much.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was a lesson for me. I was like, dang, I'm a homeowner, but on paper, I'm underwater. We eventually refied out and got our payment lower because it was 7% was my first mortgage. So I thought that was 7%. I was like,
how long ago was this? 20 years?
It was October 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know any different. And,
Wow.
I just knew I wanted to own a house, and I literally was crying myself to sleep every night. But I'm like, it doesn't matter as long as I make the payments, it'll come back. And it literally came back. And 10 years later, we sold it for a 6-figure profit. So that
really?
So that was a lesson. But during that time, I'm like, things started picking up in 2011, 2012. I want to buy houses. I want to get involved in I like real estate,
Yeah.
And I saw the values coming back just like I thought it would. And my mom, she got licensed 2 years before me. And I would send her business from people I was meeting in the nightclub. And, I'd ask her for a referral. I'm like, can I get a referral fee? She's like, no, son.
That's illegal.
You're not licensed, so technically I can't give you a referral. So she probably didn't want me in the nightclub when I had my 2 little babies. So she convinced me to get my real estate license as well.
So I want to segue to what's going on in the housing market right now. I've seen online interest rates are hitting that 7%. And going back to what you said that when you bought a home, rates gone up to 7%, right, at that time?
Yep.
How do you correlate that back then until now and what's going on? And with the challenges with the buyers that we're having today, I do see a lot of deals that are backing off, especially with these new homes, because, now it takes about almost 9 months to build a home.
Yep.
And back then, 9 months ago, rates were very low. Lenders were not locking in rates for 12 months with the, what they have now. And they would only lock it, 30, 60, 90 days. What are you telling your clients now? Because you've gone through that situation, right? We just had this conversation where you had, 2 buyers that bought in the, a couple months ago under contract, but now rates are high. What do you do? You know what I mean? If you're a buyer, it's and you're talking to your client. You were in that same situation.
I literally tell them the story. And I'm like, listen, if you're looking to buy this home because you think you're going to sell it for a large profit in 2 years, now's probably not the best time.
I like that you say that.
Yeah. But if you're looking for a place that you want to live in because it fits your lifestyle, maybe you've got kids and you need more space, or maybe, you're an empty nester and you need downside and you don't want to climb steps every day.
Yeah.
You know, if you have an actual need to do this and you don't want to rent, because if I would have rented those 10 years before I sold it, I wouldn't have had that 6-figure profit, would I?
Correct.
You know, so, you know, it's kind of like it was still a forced savings account. And as long as I didn't sell the asset, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Right. And I did refi out of it a couple years later. And I still had the asset. And I liked the house. I liked the vibe. It had this spiral staircase, the one in Rhodes Ranch in the back, that it looked like a little mini castle. Like, I liked it. So it's what I wanted, as opposed to living in a place that I didn't feel good about on the inside. Like, how much time am I going to be on the planet, and do I want to be unhappy in the place that I live?
Yeah.
No. So, like, there are intangible, like, values other than just the monetary side of the space that you're living in my opinion. And if you're okay with waiting 5 to 10 years, if you're worried that the price is going to go down, just know that it will always come back. And if you need to wait, you need to wait. But, you know, there are plenty of people that want to buy now. And I think this time is probably different. I don't think it's going to be like it was in 2008. There are a lot of different factors that are taking place now compared to back then.
So I want to go to you for a second, Dan. 3 months ago, I'm sorry, not 3 months ago. Let's just say 8 months ago, you got a good interest rate, and you were not able to lock in a loan for 12 months. Let's talk about what is a lock rate, when should you lock, and why are lenders now giving you that opportunity to lock in a rate for 12 months, and is there a cost? I know there's a bunch I'm throwing at you, but I think this is important.
I think you started at the beginning of what are people approved with now?
Yeah.
Right? So if you're at the brink of not approving and you're at a 50% debt ratio, anybody beyond a 50% debt ratio can't get approved for a loan. And when I talk about what people are approved for, it's really about, when I'm speaking, this is more of on a loan perspective. This is not on a what everybody perspective of where your situation is today, right? This is today's world. If you're trying to get approved, you can't get over 50%. So if you're at that brink, you're the person that needs to lock your rate, because if the rates continue to go up, this only makes sense in an accelerating rate market, which we're in, because you got to think that as we keep going up, you're out of the market, you're priced out, you may lose that house, right? So now it makes more sense for somebody in that position to maybe lock in a 6 or 12-month lock. You have the 2-1 buy down. We were talking about that, right? You got to do your all in. You got to lock in on that. Sometimes that makes sense. I would say if you're still paying the rate down, though, it's still a cost. If you plan on refining, you may want to reconsider it, because you're going to lose that money. If the rates all of a sudden come down to 4.5%, 5%, and you locked in at 7%, you put down 10 grand and you're refining, all that buy down you just put in, you're losing it, because now you're readjusting your position with the rate. So I think lenders in general came up with this because they knew we're in an accelerating market. We knew we're at all-time highs for houses. Yeah. Right? So they had to do something to stop the bleeding. And those two things is what they did. You got a 6-month, 12-month lock, which was not offered before. And then you also have that 2-1 buy down now, which they're constantly trying to adjust, because everybody knows today is payment shock. Yes. Right? Huge payments, mortgage broke, living, I told you last week, 38% people, today's world, just on the mortgage side, you can only go to 50%. You can't go beyond 50%. So if all of your in debt is at 50% debt and past that, you're not going to approve for a loan.
So what you're saying is, if you're at a debt to income ratio at 50%,
all in total debt ratio,
you might as well lock in your rate.
Yeah. Some people these days, they might, with all of the debt they've accumulated, might be at 60 or 70% based upon with their mortgage payment and everything else, right?
Yep.
So at qualifying position.
So what you're saying is, if you're maxed out right now and you're out buying a brand new home, you probably want to lock in today at the 12 months versus the 6 months, because it takes 8 months to build a home.
Absolutely.
And if you're at a debt to income ratio at 50%, you're maxed out. If that needle just moves just the hair, you're pretty much done.
And to coincide with what you're saying, you're absolutely right about that. Now, when you look at the debt ratio and you're saying if that needle is moving, you don't really know on a 12 or 6 month lock, right, of how much time you need. Why? Because builders always do what?
Correct.
They're always like, oh, we need an extra month,
Correct.
An extra 2 months. Well, why not just do the 12? You have the extra time. You don't want that lock extension fee. That could be thousands of dollars.
So is there a cost difference for me, for locking in at, 90 days versus 6 months versus 12 months, is there a price difference?
So usually it depends on the lender, right? And it depends on what they're going to charge. In some instances, if you do a 6-month lock, there was a period where lenders don't want you to back out, right? Because you're extending the lock. It's a cost to lock in a loan for a lender. People don't know that, especially when you cancel. There is a loss there too.
Yeah.
And if you do that enough, lenders now with that good resume that they have with these banks, because we're a correspondent lender, they start pulling back and say, hey, you know what? You getting all these locks and you have people backing out and you're losing these locks. It's costing you money. It's costing us money. We don't want to do business. That could happen, right? Or we're not going to give that opportunity. So these 6-month and 12-month locks is really like an opportunity given to these consumers. So as long as they go in, the 6-month lock is typically a little bit cheaper than the 12-month. If you go extend it out further, it's going to cost you more money.
Give us an example of how much would a 6-month lock cost, roughly.
6 months, let's say it's a point. I'm just going to give you an example.
Yeah.
Typically, it's like a point, maybe point and a half. Maybe there's an additional $1,000 or $2,000 fee. But a point to point and a half on a $500,000 deal, that's $5,000 to $700 or $5,000 to $7,500, right? Where you're at. Okay. Now, if you're doing a full 12 months, that might cost you 2 points.
Oh, wow.
So at $500,000, that could cost you $10,000. It just depends on what the pricing is for that lender. And I think that's where people have to understand.
So Daniel, let me ask you this. If, you're working with Dan, let's just say, and you have a client, you go to a brand new home, right? If the home is about 6 months out, okay, what would you actually advise your client? Would you actually have them lock in at the 6 months, or would you say the 12 months? Or what is that conversation that you have, or what strategy do you have, and who pays for that? Because $10,000 is a lot of money addition to your total closing costs, right?
No, 100%. And based on my past experience, recent experience, I would definitely lean towards the 12-month.
Okay.
Just because every single one of my homes or my clients' homes that have closed this year that were brand new were delayed by 3 to 6 months.
Wow. And that's probably because of materials, right?
Materials, supply chain issues, labor.
Yeah.
Like there was a story with one group. I won't say their names, but literally I think another builder straight up snatched this crew off of this site for another site around the corner, offered them more money, and they were gone for 8 weeks, and then they came back.
Yeah.
And that was one of the delays. So it's not just supply chain issues, it's also labor issues as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let me just kind of fast forward real quick. What are you seeing in today's market? Because I'm getting calls. Matter of fact, I just got a call today from one of my clients, and he wants to write a super low ball offer. So I just want to give you a quick shout out because you know who I'm talking about. He was telling me that, Chuck, you ain't got no buyers. There's no buyers out there. And I had to explain to him, I have over $39 million of approved buyers that were constantly looking at homes, right? How do you combat that situation? Because then you also have buyers out there, just like my clients, thinking that there's nobody's buying homes, and I want to submit an offer like $300,000 below. But we're talking about a $2 million home, right?
Well, yeah, okay, so that's a little bit different than submitting a $300,000 below on a $600,000 house, but you got to look at the market. You got to look at, and that's a completely separate submarket compared to median price range, obviously, but you got to look at that market and you got to show them the numbers. Because a beautiful home that is just totally decked out, all those very nice materials and just designed like a piece of art is something that's going to be much more desirable than your regular standard, track home. And people with money could come in and just buy that thing. Yeah. Just like that. If it's been sitting on the market, it may not necessarily be a money issue for the seller either. And they might just hold their ground. And a lot of times we're seeing that, especially with homes where they know the value of the home. Maybe they don't necessarily need to sell, but if they do need to sell, that'll be apparent in probably like price drops or something like that.
I feel like it's a case by case, right? You have all these little submarkets, you have all these little neighborhoods, and then you come across a property. And this is what I call that unicorn property, right? That it has everything that you want. It may have a view, but you can't replicate that property again. even though it's in the same neighborhood. So
Yeah.
I notice, some of my buyers, we are getting discounts.
Mm-hmm.
Some buyers, we got to pay full price because it's that unicorn property. In addition to that, if the home is priced correctly, they tend to move.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard because it's like buyers in today's market they really have this impression, hey, I want to offer 20, 30%, below its current value.
Yeah, and the way that I see it is it's kind of like having that same kind of conversation you were having with a seller only 6 months ago.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite. They wanted to price their home, 5-10% above market.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they were getting it, but there were plenty of homes even in the lowest level of inventory that were sitting because they weren't priced properly. And again, I just think that you got to go back to the data and the numbers and pointing out the unicornness, if that's even a word, of a property and how
it is now.
It is now unicornness. Just coined something there.
It's your next marketing slogan.
Yeah.
Who wants this unicornous property?
Unicornanamity.
There you go. I'll have a shirt with a hashtag.
Unicornus.
Yeah.
You can't duplicate this property, right?
Exactly.
Like you can't find this home site in this area again, and the seller knows it.
Yeah.
And you know it too because you want it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a question for both of you.
Yeah.
So you're both working out there. Doesn't the market really dictate, though, what the value of the home is? I mean, sellers think what it is, but it's what people are willing to spend for it. Now, you can say 20 or 30% less, which is true.
Yeah.
But is it those buyers out there that are now back in the market that saw homes at that price range and they're trying to get it back at that price range because that's what they can afford?
Realistically, it just comes down to the demand dictates the price. That's basically it is. You know what I mean? A home is really worth what somebody's willing to pay. And that's just the bottom line.
And there's two types of buyers. You've got investors and you've got, primary residents, people that are going to be living in this home or maybe a second home. And they have totally different mindsets around pricing and what they're willing to pay.
So, like, if you have a home, 1980s, say it's a 1985 home, right?
Yeah.
It's got the bones. It's probably in an older neighborhood, say Tropicana area, right? Just given hypothetical. But you got that old tile inside, right? Countertops are old, outdated. Everything's outdated. And you're still trying to sell that for $520, right? Something like that. I mean, you probably have to think if the unicornus properties are getting full price, right? You would think that the other properties would be getting significantly less. Those are the ones you would think that they would be getting the 20 and 30% reductions because there's so much work to be done.
Yeah. And again, that comes down to
That's a good point.
what a buyer's willing to pay. Like if they see, like you can get amazing deals on brand new homes right now because it's the end of the year, because, they have inventory that they need to get rid of. And I've heard like 80% of the new home inventory has started to get absorbed with these amazing incentives. Like if I'm a buyer and I see a new home versus a 1985 home that's dated in original condition, and they're giving me all of these bells and whistles, like what would I do if I were the buyer?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
This is what I find very fascinating. About 6 months ago, you could not find a home for $400,000. It was very difficult. Okay. Today, according to the multiple listing service, $400,000 and below, 3 bedrooms and up for a detached single family residence. There's over 1,720 properties currently on the market. So what does that tell you? With the average household income here in the state, right, or the city of Las Vegas here, what are they purchasing? Mm-hmm. Probably around the $450,000 and below. So what's happening is buyers that could not buy now can come out and buy, but also have the opportunity to pick and choose what they want. A lot of my buyers are taking their time, but they are still buying a home. But instead of looking at one home, we have to look at 5 homes, 10 homes, because now they have options.
Yeah, but are they looking for the deal? See, I think a lot of people, and that's what really pushes them in. It's like, we'll take a stab at 10 or 15 deals, like maybe like, hey, what do you think, Chuck? Or what do you think, Danny? But it's like, when you do give that opportunity to put in that deal and they hit a home run, That's the ones they're going to stay with. They want that home run. They don't want a triple. They don't want a double. They want that home run because of this market.
Now, what I tell my clients is this. If you're only buying this property because you can get $30,000 off, especially this is going to be a primary residence, you're buying it for the wrong reasons. You should be buying a home where you're like, I don't care what you do. I love this home. I love everything about this home.
Right.
Because there are tons of deals out there. I mean, I literally just got one with a strip view for like $600,000, and we had like a $40,000 equity position on the deal. So that one was a home run.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a case by case. It's not all these homes, right? But it was a win-win situation all around. But I remember shopping with my client. He's like, yeah, I'll buy this one if I can get it at this price. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you buy a home just because you can get a discount? What happens if it drops even further? And then it goes to what you paid for, right? The value goes to what you paid for. Now it's just not even, now you're not happy with it.
Well, I mean, why do you want 40,000? Is it just because you feel like you got to win, or was it because he was maybe going to use that, or she was going to use that to buy the rate down, or like I would be asking like why?
You should always be buying a home, especially in today's market. Is number one because you want a home and you know you're going to stay in a home for some time, because I feel that the market is going to go down even further. Okay, I feel like we have another 20% correction. Now, look, I can't forecast this thing. I don't know what's going on. I'm just some guy behind the camera. Matter of fact, I'm not even a real estate agent. I'm just making all this up. But no, on a serious note, I don't know what's going on, right? I look at the data, and I feel like we have another 20% more, right? And I'm repositioning. However, at the end of the day, you need to make that decision. If you're going to buy, and if you're buying based upon speculations in today's market, it is very dangerous. But if you are in the market today where you want to buy because you can get into the market and you know you're going to live in there for the next 5-10 years to weather out the storm, same situation that you had, then I would say go ahead and do it.
Well, let me say this though. So price point, you said $450.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe buyers at $450 with the rates. Some of them need money, right? Closing costs, things like that. Also, that classification, I'm not going to say that genre of a buyer is the one that's asking for that 20 and 30%, but what point do you get to a level where people are buying homes and they're not looking for a discount? Is there any like 800 plus, $1 million plus? Like where does that start where people are really not in it, or is it everybody just looking for a deal?
So here's the thing. With all my buyers, matter of fact, we just looked at a $2 million home yesterday, and I'm about to submit an offer. They wanted me to submit for like 1.7, which is crazy. And it was a unicorn property. It was a beautiful property. I know they're not going to accept the offer, but they just want to throw it out there and see what happens.
Well, how long has it been on the market?
It just literally hit the market. Oh. So I already know what's going to happen. The offer is not going to get accepted, right? Because the property just went on the market. Now, if it was saturated for some time, then we can go ahead and do that.
So they offered 300 less.
Yeah, 300 less, which is about 15% of the asking price.
And I think as a realtor, you have to they may not listen to you up front. So you got to go through this process where you write it a couple times for maybe properties that's like, okay, your way is not working. Now try it my way.
Yeah, now this is dangerous. And I've gone through this because I've been doing this now for 11 years where buyers, right, they want to do it their way on the property that they fall in love with. They end up losing that property. Once they lose that property, now we're back out in the marketplace. Now they always compare to that property. Oh, man, I wish I would have got that property. Well, you see what I'm saying? And that's not a good position to be in.
And that's why you have to, with that experience, paint those pictures for them at the time of writing that offer and say, how would you feel if you lost out on that property because you submitted $300,000 less, even though you might have been willing to pay only $100,000 less, or even list price? How would you feel if you lost that property? And if you use those words, like that kind of language with emotion, it gets them into that state of like, oh man, I would feel like I really lost out.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now what we're going to do, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Matter of fact, we got a bunch of sponsors, but we haven't uploaded the video just yet. So we're going to go with our first sponsor and we will be right back. Does your house look like and have you been considering remodeling your home for some time now? Well, if you love real estate like I do and appreciate the attention to detail in the craftsmanship required to build a remodel or a gorgeous home,
then I got the perfect company for you. Guys, I highly recommend Design Zone Remodeling. They are a stellar company that will turn your outdated home into your own personal sanctuary. They specialize in bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels, and full house remodels. Design Zone Remodeling has a reputation for excellent workmanship, competitive fees, and being able to offer a wide range of services and deliver the outstanding results to their clients. I use Design Zone Remodeling on my personal properties. Give Design Zone Remodeling a call today at 725-223-0871 or visit their website at designzoneremodeling.com to request a free consultation today.
And welcome back to the LV Home Experts podcast. This is where we talk about real estate and financing. And if this is your first time tuning into the show, my name is Chakits Krulsawat with Simply Vegas, licensed real estate agent out here. And I got my co-host Dan French with a Guarantee Rate. So today we got a very special guest, Daniel, with KW, Keller Williams. And today we are talking about what's going on with the Las Vegas housing market from a buyer's perspective. So we're just going to jump right back into it. So we talked earlier about, buyers and what's going on with the market and a couple strategies on what you can do to get your offer accepted and things to look out for. So I want to get a little bit more into the market right now. I think the last time that we did our podcast, right, we were sitting at like 440,000 or 445,000. No, I'm sorry, 450,000. We went from 485 down to about 435. Then we jumped back up. We settled at 450. Check this out. This is very interesting. For detached single-family residents, as of today, right? We currently have 8,086 homes currently on the market. The last 7 days, we sold about 357 homes. The median price point for a home today is $437,500. You're paying about $251 a square feet or foot. Average days on the market is 25 days. Now, 25 days for me, that's still a healthy market as far as things moving, right? But obviously your home has to be priced correctly. However, we're down to 437,500. We've been going up, but now we have a slight turn. Is something going on with the market that I don't know about? Do you feel like it's getting softer? You feel like it's getting harder? I mean, what's going on?
Well, I mean, it looks like we had like a euphoric rise from January to March or May. And then we had a really drastic drop from May, June, July, August. And if you look at August and September, though, it looks like we found a level of resistance because it looks like it's about the same median price 2 months in a row now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know exactly what that means, but the roller coaster ride down has seemed to level out a little bit. Maybe we'll continue to go down because when those numbers came out, the interest rate was like at 6 or 6.5, and now it's above 7.
Yeah.
So maybe that would, bring us down even more. But yeah, I think we leveled out for the last 2 months. We found a level of resistance and hopefully we can stay there. But, you brought up affordability.
Yeah.
Earlier. And then the median household income. I mean, I looked at those numbers. I think it's around $60,000 a year.
Yeah, correct.
And if you look at a 7% interest rate and you look at a $435,000 median home price.
That's a pretty high payment, though, if you think about it.
Even if you qualified at 50% debt-to-income ratio and you didn't have credit card payments or a car payment or anything else, you're paying like $3,300 a month with 5% down, I think. $3,500 a month. And if you do the math on that, like half of $60,000 is $30,000.
What if
divide that by 12, you can't afford that payment. Affordability is not there.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of...
I would agree. Affordability is just not there.
But then that's where we go back to the 2-1 buy down option, right, Dan? kind of explain that.
Well,
But what's the risk on the 2-1 buy down? Explain what that is first.
Yeah, there's no risk. It's just
There is a risk because if rates don't drop, then you don't refinance.
right.
You're still stuck at
But what
7%.
the risk is you're losing money if you decide to refinance later. All you're doing is you're still taking the same rate today. They're just giving you're buying a discount, so the payment shock of it going up every year for 2 years. It starts out here at a lower rate, then it goes a little bit higher, and then it goes into that all-in rate. That's just to help you get into accustomed paying the payment, right? So you can go in to make the payment. You're not worried about, okay, this is going to be payment shock and I'm not going to be able to afford it. So from my perspective, though, when I want to go back because the 2-1 buy down, yeah, it's an opportunity there. If you refinance down the road, which I think rates will come down at some point, right? The Fed may have to intervene. We don't know, but they could come down. I'm not talking about anytime soon.
Yeah.
We know they're going to raise the Fed's fund rate. So I think buyers today, when you look at the prices of homes and you see where they're at and how they declined, you said 437. Maybe we stayed pat on those 2 months where things were leveling off. How many builders were in the market offering incentives for move-in ready homes? And they were listing them on the MLS. Yep. So you got to think that if you're giving an opportunity, you're getting 30, 40, huge numbers, right? That might have kind of stayed or sustained those numbers for those 2 months. But now we're starting to see what's really going on where, we've come down a little bit, 437. If they keep raising the rates, we could possibly end up at 410, 415.
Well, the other
Median
thing
price
on the market is I looked at the numbers, and I think like 5 or 10% of those homes are also open door and iBuyer homes.
See what I'm saying?
Where they're taking a loss.
Exactly.
And they're actually driving the market down because they're doing a fire sale or whatever.
But it's still sales, right? It's still, we sold it for this. So, and when you have builders now saying, hey, move in ready, they normally didn't put it on the MLS. They would just say, hey, it's just off. And so now they're doing that just maybe to help out getting it sold from what I've seen.
Yep.
And I think maybe for a period of time, and you guys can correct me, I don't know, but they're offering so much, and it was a period where it dropped so fast. They had these properties they had to get rid of. Like you said, they're getting rid of them at all costs, and that probably drove sales up a little bit, and that's why you see the numbers decline.
Now, also, I noticed that the market is no longer about the price, right? It's about the monthly payment, right? Because at the $400,000, if you're making a $3,300 payment, I mean, that's a pretty big payment if you think about it, right? So if you're representing a buyer, how do you combat that situation? What can you do as an agent, or what strategies do you have to negotiate a better price or a lower monthly payment?
Yeah, and I think that it's not about the price. Like we're talking about a monthly payment for most buyers. So instead of, if I'm talking with a seller too, like instead of doing a price reduction and killing the comps and everything in the neighborhood, why don't we look at a credit, like maxing out the credit to buy down whoever your buyer is going to be's rate so their monthly payment is more affordable. Like that makes more sense, and that's probably what they want anyways. Yeah, and it makes it easier to chew on that monthly payment when you're able to knock it down with maxing out that contribution.
And I think that's a very great strategy from a realtor's perspective and a buyer's perspective. If you can go in and negotiate with that seller to get a credit of $10,000 towards the buy down. But now I'm going to throw this on you, Dan. I know sellers can contribute a certain dollar amount. Is this correct? And what is that dollar amount? And does that depend on the type of financing?
Yeah, I mean, it's conventional's 4% and FHA's 6%. So that means they can contribute up to that much for closing costs, right? Okay. Or to anything. And you made a good point, Danny, is if you're using somebody else's money to buy your rate down, go for it. Yeah. At that point, you're not risking anything and get that 2-1. It's free money, right? Yeah. So I'm just saying, is there risk? Yeah. Most people, though, are getting that seller contribution, I think, when they get these offers accepted, not just on resale, but on new homes for sure, right? Builders are pitching it. Like, hey, man, we're going to give you a lot of money to buy your rate down. Now, you do have a rule. It's a high-cost rule, right, of high-cost loans, right, mortgage loans. Yeah. You can't contribute more than 3% unless you're going to be in a high-cost area of getting yourself in a different sector. That opens up maybe a different level of auditing for a lender, but so there's only so much you can buy the rate down. People don't think you can just say, hey, the builder's going to give me 6%. Let's buy the rate down 6%. You can't do that. Mostly you can just go up to 2% for the most part, right? Whatever that cost is.
Yeah, and whether you're looking in the resale market or the builders market, the sellers in resale need to know that these builders are offering these incentives, and if you want to have a shot at competing, unless you have unicornanimity, you need to
unicornanimity.
Write that down.
I love that. Hey, I'm taking that from you, bro. I'm stealing it.
You need to compete.
Yes.
Like, and this is the way to do it. And that's what's moving the needle for these builders, right? Like you see Pulte with the 4.9 or the 3.9. I get the emails all the time. You see whatever it is, they're maxing out the incentives, and that's your competition. And as a buyer, you're looking at both. Hopefully, you're looking at the resale, because you might find a nice resale home that has that pool, right? Mm-hmm. How much is it going to cost to put that pool in a brand new home? You know?
How are these builders on the lending side, you know, able to get a better deal from an outside brokerage versus in-house? Like, some of the deals that I see what they're giving, it's almost like they're not making any money, but they're getting the deal, you know, with all their incentives when it comes to the financing side. I mean, are you seeing that?
Yeah,
it's just kind of strange.
So, like, I don't know the inner workings. I've heard, you know, maybe they've purchased tranches of money in bulk at a lower rate in an earlier time, and they still have some of that in their war chest, so to speak. So they're able to offer it as an incentive. Now, I don't work in that department, but if it's there, or I ask, like, is this the best? And that's what you got to do. You have to have an agent that's going to ask and be relentless about asking for the best possible deal.
Okay.
You know?
So you can negotiate with the builder, correct?
You can, and most of the time people think you can only do it on standing inventory homes, but if your agent knows the market and what's happening, and they know their seller or builder's motivation, they will tell you they're not negotiating on the standing inventory home.
Yeah.
You built it from the ground up, this, that, and you got to pick everything out. But I have personal experience recently where we were able to do that, and if we didn't use the strategies that I've talked about with them, we probably wouldn't be able to get it, because they told us no like 4 or 5 times.
You know what's crazy? Sometimes you walk into the sales office, you find a property that you like, and you try to negotiate a deal with the seller. With the sales agent. Sales agent says no. But look, guys, if you're a real estate agent out there and also you're a buyer, look, at the end of the day, you have a right to submit an offer. They don't make that final decision. It's the sales manager. They're going to write the numbers. And this is where you have a strong agent and you also have a very weak agent, right? But look, you just got to go in and you got to ask. And if they say no, wait, you don't make the decision. If you want this deal, let's go into this deal by asking. Let's see where we stand, right?
And that's exactly what happened. The sales rep was like, no, they don't do that. But you have to escalate. You have to. And be professional and ask in a nice way. And you be stern and firm. And you may get it, you may not, but you'll never know if you don't ask.
Yes. Now, there's times where I've been out into the marketplace last week. We try to get a deal, but we can't get a deal because it's a brand new track. And as soon as they opened this track, things were selling like crazy. I can't believe it. It's just like you have these little hot pockets, and also depending on the type of home, the style. Like, let me give you an example. Tri-Point. I like Tri-Point because they build more of a modern style home at a very affordable price, right? Where people that love these type of homes, majority of the population want to get a modern home for some reason because that's the new trend. And these guys are like the forefront of modern homes, especially at that price point, hot commodity.
They got modern luxury too up there, right?
Up there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I live in the Paseos, but right next to us is Red Point.
Yeah.
And Tri-Point has some really interesting concepts, like these tri-level as well. And some of them 500,000, like really close to the median price range.
Yeah, it's got a strip view though. You got the rooftop deck, right?
Well, some of them even from some of the windows, depending on the unicornness of the home site, you might even have something from the living room or a master or primary bedroom.
Now I want to get into this townhomes. We currently have 790 homes currently on the market. Last 7 days we sold 51. The median price point for a townhome today is $325,000. You are going to pay about $225 a square foot. Average days on the market is 26 days. Townhomes. Have you sold a townhome lately?
Yeah. I have. But actually, that referral that came from the lender in Washington today, that's what they're like. Right after this, I'm setting up a search for townhome, condo, but they're going to be more in the 225 range.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is if you can't get that home, maybe the next thing that you want to look into is a townhome.
Absolutely. And it's almost like some of them have yards. You might only have one wall attached, and they usually build them with, soundproof construction, usually a larger gap, more materials in between those walls, so it's not as much as a feel of like living in an apartment.
Okay.
It feels like a home. It's a townhome. It's got the word home in it.
But what's crazy with these townhomes? If you take a look at this, the price is $325,000, but the HOAs are roughly about almost $200, right? Mm-hmm. At $200, you can actually apply that towards your monthly payment. Now you're at the 400 something range. You could possibly buy a home. But the question is, if you're barely breaking into the entry level for a single family residence, should you downsize of what you want in a single family residence? A single family detached home, and go get a townhome and get everything that you want. Does that make sense? So like, what would you advise your client? Like,
I would
go get the townhome and get everything that you want at the price point, or get a detached home. You only get 6 out of 10 now, but at least you get a house.
Go ahead, Andy. You answer.
Yeah, I think it depends on, like I said, like a strong reason for buying right now is lifestyle and how you feel on a day-to-day basis living in that space. And if you're fine with that and you prefer to have a more updated, bells and whistles, like everything that you want in the property, and you're okay with it being a townhome, that's going to make you feel better. Let's go that route.
Now, what's the difference between a condo and a townhome? Obviously, we know what the answer is, but believe it or not, I get this question asked all the time. So you want to share that with the viewers?
Based on my understanding, like a condo, maybe it's a 4-unit structure, and it's like a communal space. And from what I understand, a townhome is its own parcel on its own piece of land. Even though condos have their own parcels, that's my understanding of it. A townhome basically has more control over the actual land, and I believe the condo is more of like sharing the land that structure sits on. But maybe you can give me a more clear answer, because that's pretty much
it. Are you having a hard time financing these type of deals, condos, townhomes?
As long as they have the condo questionnaire filled out and it passes spec, that's the big thing,
Yeah.
And we talked about that, but I think if you look at the townhome side of it, and you're looking at it, what you were saying, Chuck, which makes perfect sense, where you have that extra $200 a month. Do I really want to get that one unit? I think it comes down to location.
Yeah.
And can you resell it for a higher profit? And I think that's what you always say is, and a lot of people is, can you make a profit off this? Because I'm willing to take the townhome, which is its own lot. Like you said, it's 100% owned, its own lot, versus when you talk about a condo, it's a shared dwelling, right? It's less than 100%. Usually it's a unit. So you can look at that on the plat map on any county assessor's page. But if you look at this information and you're saying, well, would you rather buy a house, let's say in Spring Valley for $400,000, right? 1980s, 1990s homes, right?
Yep.
Or would you rather buy a townhome in Summerlin? I'm probably going townhome in Summerlin.
Yeah.
And that's again, that's you, right? Like everyone has their own personal preference as well. And I prefer Summerlin. I live in Summerlin. I was born and raised here. I like the look and feel of Summerlin. Mm-hmm. My aunt and uncle love Henderson.
Yeah.
For some reason.
For some reason.
I like Henderson too. I've lived in every part of the city, but I would probably take the townhome in Summerlin. And I've lived in Spring Valley. I grew up over there. But I might be able to pull off a better deal in Spring Valley and renovate it myself, or hire the contractors that were advertised on that commercial to fix it up and make it the way I want, and maybe be less out of pocket in the long run and be able to do it along the way.
So it just comes down to if you're willing to make a sacrifice for that payment. You see what I'm saying?
Not to try to keep you. I got a question on this, and then we can kind of move on. But if you have a 1980, 1990 home, they update it. Don't you have to have a specific buyer? Because I think the mindset of buyers coming in is, I want new, and I want resale, I want location, I want to be able to come into something modern. Sometimes even updating a home like in the 1980s, 90s, and you update it to what's new, it still has the same bone structure of what a house looked like in the 80s, 90s, right? It doesn't give you the full effect of getting that new modern look.
That depends. If you just do the cosmetics, yes, but I see luxury rehabbers out there will take a ranch-style home that was built in the 80s, but you have like 1 acre in a guard-gated community. They gut the whole thing, open up the floor plans. It literally just changes up the dynamic. So basically what they just created was a timepiece, right? And these homes, they look immaculate. But now, when you get into that price point, you're really only targeting one type of audience. And who is that audience? Who is that buyer? It's style, right? It's like when you go buy a car, you buy clothes, you buy clothes based upon your style. So it makes it a little bit harder to find that buyer, but once that buyer finds that home, you're done. The home's sold. You see what I'm saying?
Unicorn style, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a case-by-case basis. But for me, I've noticed a lot of buyers in today's market, first thing that comes out of their mouth is say, I want a modern home. But if you take a look at some of these modern homes, they do, on the exterior, looks modern, but when you go in, it's really a traditional home. Because what is a modern home? Modern homes are pretty much open, loft style, right? Just everything is all open. Mm-hmm. But you also have to watch out because some of the builders, they're very good at making it look like it's modern on the exterior, but it's a standard 4 bedrooms, right? Everything's all square. And then you just got modern finishings and everybody says that's a modern home, but technically it's not a modern home, right? So a true modern home, like I said, it's you really got to customize it. You have to have catwalks. Everything has to be completely open, windows. So that's what you really have to identify. But like I said, there's a company out there they're very good at what they do, right? Building these modern homes, and it looks like it's modern, but it's really not modern. You know what I'm saying?
You go back to the investor, though. Like you said, that I said the older house. You're 100% true. They'll come in and gut it and redo it. But I'm just saying for a lot of people, as you're owning a house that you buy in the 80s and 90s, let's say you're leaving and you did update it, it still has the bone structure of an 80s house. And I'm not saying that they didn't do the countertops, the flooring, and all that stuff. But it just still has the look, the square, everything. It doesn't fit the modern.
Well, that depends, and that's where I was saying, depending on what level of the rehab it is, right? What I've noticed is with these luxury rehabber guys, they'll literally take down the walls and they'll open everything up. They'll change out the plumbing, right? Change out the electrical.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's the extent of that rehab because also with the older homes, you've got the older HVAC.
Yeah.
You've got the older systems and appliances, even the venting that isn't as efficient as what you might get in a brand new home today. But if you go deep on that renovation, even though the year built of that property might say 1985, it could look and feel newer than what you might get as a brand new home today because maybe you didn't upgrade everything when you picked out your options. But
obviously that's something as a buyer you have to take a look at and you have to do your inspections. And if you're buying like a multi-million-dollar home, right, obviously they probably already did all those kind of upgrades to it, but that's something that you need to find out. But if you're dealing with like $300,000 homes, they're probably not changing out electrical. They're not probably changing out plumbing, right? It's basically, what is it called? Lipstick on a pig?
Lipstick on a pig.
Popcorn ceiling.
Yep.
Exactly, because all they're doing is giving that illusion because they're flipping properties. But like I said, when you deal with these high-end flippers, and I've seen, man, guys are literally gutting the whole thing out and just really creating a brand new home. It's crazy what these guys are doing. But on the flips, they're making tons of money, like crazy money.
Yeah, and you better know what you're doing at that level too, because these buyers will sniff out a quick job. You know? And before you could just put the gray vinyl plank flooring on the floor, you know what I mean?
Paint it white.
And it's gonna sell, right? But now, like, people are taking a little more time, just like you said. They're looking at twice as many properties, and they're gonna be sure what they buy is something that they want to live in and something that they like.
Yep.
So Daniel, let me ask you this: if somebody wants to buy a home from you today, obviously you list homes and sell homes too as well. You do it all, right? What is your niche in the real estate game? What is it that you do exactly?
I would say that, you know, I do have a knack for listing and selling properties.
Okay.
I do like the Summerlin area, specifically Summerlin West and like the Canyons area over there. I grew up over there, know it very well. So I would say that's probably my niche area.
Okay.
But if you look at the sales on the map, it's literally all over the place in the valley. You know, you can get from one side to the other in 45 minutes here. So, you know, if someone needs help and they're motivated, like, I want to help you if I can.
And what's the best way to get a hold of you? I know Instagram, we already have your contact information in the description below and also in the comments too as well. So if somebody wants to list or sell a home, or buy a home or list a home, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Just text or call me, 702-354-1355. I look at that more than anything else.
Hey, you know what? I really do appreciate you coming on out here. Means a lot to me.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. So that's pretty much it for the end of this show. Also, just a quick plug. Larissa, she's actually an attorney. She does probates and all that stuff like that. She actually has a educational class, CE class. This is where they talk about death and divorce. What you will learn at this class is how to invest in deeds affecting ownerships of the sale, how death and divorce of home ownerships affects contracts and transactions. Also, she had sent out a gift, so I just want to give her a quick plug too as well. Now, if you guys want to go to the CE, it actually is October 18th at 2 p.m. If you guys want more information, let us know, and we'll get York the information on out to you. Other than that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Have a blessed day now, guys. Peace.